find the sum by hand. Then use a calculator to check your work. So first we want to pay close attention to the directions. They ask us to find the sum first by hand and then to use our calculator. So don't get to using the calculator as a crutch. Be sure that you can work these problems comfortably by hand first. So in our first example, in part A, we're being asked to find the sum of 3 plus -7. And so if we take a look at just a summary of the rules for adding sign numbers over to the right, we can remember what we learned, that if the signs are the same, we want to take the sum, we want to add the number parts together and keep the sign. But if the signs are different, we want to take the difference. We want to subtract the values and use the sign of the larger absolute value as the sign for our final sum or our final answer. So in the example that we start with here with part A, we look at this and we say, well, we're going to find the sum by hand of 3 plus -7. And so we notice that the signs are different. +3 and -7 is what we're going to be adding. So we're going to take their difference. We know that 7 minus 3 is 4. So that's the difference. And so if we say, well, we've got 3 plus -7. Their signs are different. And so I know that my answer is going to have a 4 in it, but I have to think about if it will be positive or negative. When I think of the absolute value of 3 and -7, absolute value of 3 is 3. Absolute value of -7 is 7. -7 has the larger absolute value, and because that is negative, that means my final answer is also going to be negative. So 3 plus -7 equals -4. In our second example, we have another situation where we're adding two numbers that have different signs. Since their signs are different, we're going to take the difference. We're going to subtract those values. So we know 8 minus 4 is 4, so that's nothing new. So if we think about this as -4 plus 8, so again, we know that we're going to have a 4 part of our answer, but again, it's not enough just to think about the number. We also have to think about the sign. The absolute value of -4 is 4. The absolute value of 8 is 8. 8 has the larger absolute value, and notice in this case, the 8 is positive. And so my answer is going to be +4, or because it's positive, for this one, we can just write the number 4. It's not that we're not thinking about it having the positive sign out front. It's just that we don't have to show it if we know that it's there. In our final example, -2 plus -5, notice that in this situation, the signs are the same. And so in this case, we want to take the sum. We want to add the two pieces together. So if we have -2 plus -5, if I add the numbers together, if I add 2 and 5, that's going to give me 7. And I'm going to keep the sign of my numbers. Remember that both of the numbers that I was adding in this case were negative. They were both negative, and so that means that my final answer has to be a negative as well. Be thinking, folks, if you're having a hard time keeping track of positives and negatives, think about your bank account. If you have $3 and you spend $7, you're now in the hole $4. It's going to be negative. However, if you're in the hole $4 and then you make a payment for $8 to your credit card, now all of a sudden you have $4 to your benefit. You have $4 in the positive side. But down here, if I owe somebody $2 and then I add another $5 in debt, that's going to give me a total of $7 in debt. And that gives me that negative sign. -2 plus -5 is -7. It's not that a negative and a negative is a positive. A lot of us learn that somewhere along the line, but that's not true. A negative plus a negative will always equal a negative.